You don't know vampires like this.
Oh, good. I need to work up an appetite first.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer has one of the most unique vampires in fiction, and I'm going to explain why, because in the context of the Buffyverse, what is a Slayer without her many vampires? Spoilers ahead for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel respectively. Vampires are a race of undead soulless demons who can only exist on Earth by leaving their own dimension and taking over human corpses, making them half-breeds that pure demons often look down on. Even though they were dead, they needed warm blood to stay strong. Giles explained that the last of the old ones mixed his blood with a human before leaving Earth, creating the first vampire. This old one, Malakar, was sealed away in a deeper well. While Malakar started the line, other demons provided the essence that possessed each new vampire. Archelius, for example, was the demon lord tied to the Master's bloodline. Many ancient demons like Ilaria mocked vampires as half-breeds or the ooze that eats itself, and saw them merely as disgusting because of their human origins.
Do you know what you were when I was young? You were the muck at our feet. We called you the ooze that eats itself.
So how does one become a vampire? A person only becomes a vampire through a blood exchange, meaning they have to drink a vampire's blood while dying. Otherwise, they just die. After that, they rise after some time before dawn with no special ritual required, and burial only happened when their bodies were treated like normal corpses. It's exampled throughout the series that a person only turned a vampire through a proper blood exchange, which meant the victim had to be near death and drink the sire's blood. If they were simply drained completely, they stayed dead, and drinking vampire blood while healthy did nothing at all. They usually emerged from graves only because their bodies had been handled like ordinary human corpses, or because some sires treated burial as a tradition and a way to welcome their offspring. They thought they were just lonely, misunderstood creatures. They learned the truth fast enough when Spike's crew attacked and Buffy had to save them. There are also vampire dens in Sunnydale where people paid to be fed on just when they want to feel a high. Riley Finn was a good example of this when he secretly visited this den until Buffy burned it to the ground. Within vampire culture, the Slayer was considered the ultimate nightmare. An enemy so dangerous that even ruthless vampires like Angelus and Darla preferred staying hidden rather than risking attracting her attention. Bringing down the Slayer was treated like a historical achievement, something that instantly elevated a vampire's reputation. Although vampires are pretty powerful, they still have weaknesses that need to be explored, starting with their powers. When a person was turned, their human soul departed, leaving the body for a demon spirit to inhabit, reanimating the corpse and reshaping its biology. Though their hearts no longer beat, they don't need to breathe, and vampires could move, feed, talk, feel, and giving the outward impression of human beings as long as they weren't in vamp face aside from lacking a pulse. Describing them as undead was accurate. They weren't alive, but they weren't technically dead either. Vampires could growl and roar like animals when attacking, being injured, or trying to intimidate someone. By looking at their physical outward appearance, their monstrous features appeared during feeding or combat. A ridged brow, yellow eyes, sharper canines, and fanged incisors. Sometimes their vampiric face came out involuntarily when they were tempted by blood or hurt unexpectedly. Despite their lack of heartbeat, vampires had some kind of circulating blood system, which allowed them to be knocked unconscious by cutting off blood flow to the brain, and also meant that they could become intoxicated. Spike is famous for this. Their muscles are capable of generating brief heat when moving, but they couldn't radiate body heat while at rest. In response to this, electronics can't detect them as living beings, yet vampires somehow produce visible breath in the cold, implying limited but present body heat. My guess is that it's all tied to magic. Physically, vampires operated with enhanced efficiency, often outperforming humans. Vampires were immune also to all earthly diseases. Darla's syphilis vanished when she was turned, and Spike's mother's tuberculosis disappeared as well. They could also withstand extreme pressure, such as Angel sinking into the deep ocean without protective gear. Now, it is to be noted that electrical shocks can temporarily knock them out. It should also be noted that vampires produce no life energy. Their brains lack the magical qualities of humans, making them useless to beings like Glory, who fed on mystical energy. Like most fiction, vampires don't age like humans. In fact, centuries of being undead made them stronger, faster, more durable, and far more lethal, with elders like the Master moving so quickly he could kill a person before they even had time to react. Over time, some vampires lost the ability to mimic a human's appearance entirely, developing extreme demonic traits like Kakistos, cloven hooves, or the masculine Prince of Lies, taloned fingers and pointed ears, looking more like Nosferatu, though other vampires such as Angel and Darla retain human features even after centuries. Some vampires possess strength far beyond human limitations, though the exact level varied from one individual to another, just like it did with people. Some could bend metal with their bare hands, while others struggle against barricade doors, showing that their power wasn't completely uniform. Their power also increased when they were shifted into their vampire phase, which was why Buffy told Angel to transform before charging into battle. This form once let him briefly overpower the beast before being overwhelmed. Their strength could also be significantly boosted by feeding on powerful humans or human-like beings, a process that brought both physical enhancements and a disturbing sense of pleasure. Vampires were also capable of tremendous speed, moving so quickly they appeared to be teleporting, vanish between blinks, or cross large spaces in total silence. The Master slipped out of Buffy's sight in an instant. Spike drained 2 men and hid their bodies without alerting their companion. Angel slipped in and out of Buffy's bedroom unnoticed. Also, their reaction time is equally impressive. Angel once snatched a crossbow bolt from behind, dodged tranquilizers and gunfire, and lesser vampires also deflected close-range bolts with ease. Though vampires struggled off the dangers that could easily dispatch humans, they still carried several vulnerabilities that could destroy or repel them outright. Their greatest threats were wooden weapons to the heart, decapitation, fire, and direct sunlight, all of which could end a vampire immediately under the right circumstances. A wooden object piercing the heart caused instant dusting, whether it was a stake, an arrow, a sharpened branch, and even something as small as a pencil or chopstick. Hits outside of the heart did nothing, and non-wood materials like metal had no lethal effect. But wooden injuries also healed much slower than normal wounds would. Their unnatural flesh reacted so violently to wood that even untrained humans could dust a vampire by accident. Cordelia dusted a vampire in the middle of the graduation battle. Now, the size of the wooden object also matters. Ancient vampires like Akitos barely notice a regular stake, yet dust it instantly when run through with a massive beam, while others as old as the Master met their end with an unusual large piece of wood. Some elder vampires displayed odd exceptions, like Dracula, who temporarily reformed after being staked, emerging from mist instead of being dusted. Other than that, the typical vampire weaknesses such as fire and sunlight also affect a vampire, although there have been exceptions such as filtered sunlight or environments shielding direct rays from the sun, which will allow vampires to move around during the day. They can also use tunnels, blankets, and cars with blacked out windows. And there has been exceptions to special materials like necro-tempered glass when Angel joined Wolfram and Hart that block the deadly component that is hazardous to vampires. Suns from other dimensions appear not to have a direct effect on vampires, and artificial lights such as tanning lamps prove harmless to typical vampires as well. Another reliable source of killing a vampire would be decapitation. Decapitation was another reliable method of taking out a vampire, leaving them to crumble into dust just as they did when they were staked. Although not often used in the Buffyverse, garlic served mostly as a traditional repellent, often hung in special places or carried as protection. Although not as potent as wood or holy water, it was still treated as a practical defense measure, frequently appearing among hunter tools and used by townsfolk who feared vampire attacks. Like all vampires in vampire media, vampires are also bound by mystic rules regarding private dwellings. They can't enter a person's home without explicit invitation, and without it, there is an invisible barrier that prevented access. Anyone living within the residence can grant, knowingly or not, and invitations could be verbal, written, coerced, or even expressed indirectly. Now, this invisible barrier has never been shown to hurt vampires, but touching it caused a visible ripple, and Angel even fell through a doorway once it vanished after the owner died. An invitation could be magically revoked with a ritual like one Buffy and Willow did on Angel, Spike, and Dracula. And lastly, vampires can't be seen in mirrors or reflective surfaces, though they still show up in photos and videos. However, in other dimensions, this can be an exception to the rule. But that's the life of a vampire in the Buffyverse. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.